Hello, everybody. Hope you're doing well. Nice to see you all in chat. How's everybody? It is Tuesday, the 24th. Nice to see everybody. Got a crowd forming here. 12 of you over on Twitch, 57 over on YouTube. Hello, YouTube community. Hello, Twitch community. Thanks for carving out a little time today for another episode of Shipyard. For those of you that don't know, obviously Shipyard, or if this is your first time here, Shipyard is my kind of weekly stream where I talk about spaceships, Star Citizen spaceships. We kind of speculate on them, discuss, speculate, theory craft, whatever you want to call it. Sometimes we look at ships that are already in the game. Sometimes we look at ships that are still in concept and still yet to come. Sometimes we look at the gameplay surrounding those ships, or how those ships, fit into current, gameplay that CIG is putting in, or future gameplay, right? So we gotta talk about all that, and it's a lot of fun. There's no right or wrong answers. I know we've gotten into discussions on here before about, this ship or that ship, how much it costs, what its role is, performance metrics, all that stuff. And the important thing to remember here, again, is there's no right or wrong. There's really just speculation and discussion. That's what we're doing here. Real quick though, let's see, who all do we have in chat? Rocketman, hope you're doing well. More theory, educated guessing, yes, this is educated guessing. Today, I've got my dog lint roller, so we can get the dog lint off. Let's do that real quick. Do a little bit of self-maintenance here. Nice to see everybody, though. After the big push that was St. Jude for April and May, obviously, streaming slowed down a little bit to kind of catch our breaths and all that kind of stuff, but it's always fun to reconnect with everybody. I have been officially starting my daughter's channel and getting that going. That's been a lot of fun. See VMXEO in chat. VM, hope you're doing well. Salute to you. All right, everybody, let's dive into a few things. Get a few windows pulled up here. All right, where to start? Okay. Obviously, today we are going to be talking about the RSI Polaris gunboat. Very popular ship, a lot to discuss about it, a lot to speculate on. There's been some changes, from the best of our knowledge, to the ship, and I think we could maybe even guess we could even speculate on some changes just based off some of the recent ships that have come out, Polaris, Idris, etc. We might be able to extrapolate to the Perseus, so we're going to talk more about that. Now, quick thing, everybody, want to remind everybody, Quantum Vegas 2955, been talking about it for a while now, only 17 days away. Hopefully some of you are going to be able to make it out there. If you are, or thinking about going, there's the website. Buy your tickets now if you can. If you're planning on going, get your flights, get hotels. All that's obviously still available. There's great deals for going to Vegas right now. Honestly, a great lineup of people. These are the confirmed people going. DePoets, Kim Ellis, Nate Ellis, Sandy Roberts from CIG will be there. Sean Tracy, Galactica, Tyler Azilo, Witkin, of course. Yours truly will be there. There's gonna be a ton of ship giveaways. There's going to be all kinds of swag and all kinds of cool stuff. So again, if you're going to be there, hit me up and pull me aside if you see me walking around. I might have some cool Starjump swag. Perseus, not Polaris. Well, I referenced the Polaris, but I'm saying that there's stuff that have happened to the Polaris and the Idris that we can extrapolate into the Perseus. That's what I meant to say. All right, let's see here. Next thing, Quantum Vegas. Anyways, hope to see you all there. I do hope to see you all there. Also, don't forget, everyone, we are doing a giveaway right now for an RSI Polaris. All you gotta do is go to this link down in chat. I'm going to pin it in YouTube, actually. But you can go to that link. You can then go through the step. There's multiple steps there to enter on that. We'll give that away on the last day of July, the last day of July. Okay. So get in on that. We've had a lot of entries. I know a lot of people are excited about it, so make sure you get in on that. Very exciting giveaway. More to come on that as we get closer. We'll start hyping it up even more. But anyways, that's kind of our announcements. Now let's get to our main topic. I guess the first thing to ask from everybody is who is excited for this ship. I'm going to switch back to full face. I do need to bring up a few additional windows here. I forgot to bring up one main window, like an idiot. All right, there we go. All right, let me swing back over. All right, talking about the RSI Perseus gunboat. I'm not sure exactly what class of ship CIG puts this in. I believe they've only referred to it as a gunboat. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, Chad. Obviously, we have we have frigates, we have corvettes, but I believe the Perseus has always been just referred to as a gunboat. Correct me if I'm wrong there, though. Perseus, let's go through just some of what we know here, and then we're going to do some speculation on it. Obviously, the big thing with this ship is it's got it's got a dual top turret and a dual manned bottom turret. Both of those are manned, but originally these were dual size 7s. Now it looks through the rumor mill that those have been pushed up to dual size 8s. So already the ship has received some level of upgunning, which is really interesting. So that immediately is going to sort of kind of refactor this ship a little bit, especially with the fact that these are bespoke weapons. So these are dual size 8 bespoke cannons. And anytime you have bespoke, obviously they're more integrated in the ship, not able to be switched out, and generally have a bit of fire superiority compared to a similar size gun that is not bespoke to the ship. Okay. Overthinking says large gunboat question mark subcapital. Yeah, it's definitely subcapital. The ship does utilize large components, so we're going to continue on here. Moving down here, let's go to the first one. Again, talking about those manual turrets, and internally dubbed as subcap slayers. During the first tours of duty, 4 massive size 7 cannons spell big trouble for big ships. Again, these being updated to dual size 8 now, for best of our knowledge. And the name of those new guns, by the way, from what we've been able to see, are the size 8 Medusa cannons. So they have been given a name now, Medusa. Those file names were found in the game files around Invictus. Some of that kind of came into the code. We had references for that. So it's one of those things that it's not going to. Okay. Yep. Yep. That's fine. Sorry about that, everybody. Usually, the moment I start streaming is when things start happening. But yeah, so again, the guns here moving up to size 8 are probably going to have some ramifications. I don't think we fully know where size 8s fit. We don't have size 8s in game yet. There's a couple other ships slated to get size 8s though. The Kraken will have a dual size 8 on its top nose area. And then the Abandoned Merchantman, I believe, has size 8s on the port and starboard side of the nose of the ship. So if those two ships continue on with their current armament plan of size 8s, then these guns are going to be really interesting kind of measuring sticks for those other ships. The only thing I would say again is these are bespoke weapons. If I had to guess, it's possible the Merchantman could get bespoke weapons as well. I doubt the Kraken will. The Kraken may get swappable size 8 guns. But again, we'll have to see. It's very possible that size 8 guns end up falling predominantly in the bespoke category. And generally, if a ship has size 8s, maybe it will always be bespoke. We don't really know that yet. Again, these will be the first size 8s that we're getting. Moving further down here, remote turrets. There's 4 bow-mounted ballistic cannons. These can be fully automated or remotely controlled, keeping incoming ordnance at bay. So essentially, the way these are referenced are kind of interesting. I don't know if that means fully automated through blades or fully automated via PDC or acting as a point defense cannon of some sort. It would not shock me if some of the changes that we got with the Idris, especially in regards to the T-kit, which brought on board the rocket PDCs. So those point defense turrets that ended up becoming rocket modules. I forget what those are called. Chat, correct me if I'm wrong. Was it Gremlin? Something like that. I can't remember what they're called. But regardless, Pepper Box. The Pepper Box. It's very possible those could translate over to the Perseus. We don't really know. Yeah, Pepperbox. Thank you, Eagle. Appreciate that. Tony says, is Perseus good against capital ships like the Idris or Kraken? It's definitely going to play a major role in taking down a capital ship. It's not going to just be a one-shot a capital ship. No ship is planned to do that, especially when we get more to a 1.0 state and the ships have, much more difficult takedown sort of procedures that have to happen for a ship to fully be destroyed. However, I do think the Perseus is going to play a major role in that level of capital ship gameplay. You know what I mean? So the remote turrets, these are also subject to change. As a matter of fact, I think there were some changes. I'd have to relook at what some of the leaks were saying, and I say leaks specifically, and leaks isn't probably an appropriate word, more like rumors. There was some discussion of John Crew talking about some changes to the Perseus at a Chinese bar citizen dinner, something like that. Those are unsubstantiated. We are going to go into one of the videos, the ISC, a little bit to quell a few rumors, but again, ultimately the remote turrets I think could have changed a bit. Next thing, torpedoes. A lot of people forget this ship has 20 size 5 torpedoes, right? Which is significant. And it's probably one of the main things people forget about this ship is that it carries this torpedo armament. So it's going to be interesting to see what further torpedo balance comes, especially to size 5 torpedoes. We know throughout the course of the Polaris and the Idris being released, there was a ton of changes to torpedoes. You may remember I brought up a diagram one time that discussed the speed, the targeting, and ranges of all the different torpedoes, especially when they brought in those other torpedo options for us, I think around Invictus. Yeah, it was around Invictus. So I think you can expect further changes when this ship releases to its size 5 torpedoes. I think that'll be a major part of the balancing of this ship is getting those size 5s correct. Next, the cargo. So this does have a drop-down elevator. Think a Constellation, but only much beefier, bigger. And it says here we expanded the cargo hold of the original Perseus to accommodate varied payloads and even vehicles up to and including an RSI rover. I would love, I don't think they're going to do this, but I would love an Ursa rover, but slightly more militarized. And it'd be cool if they threw it in with this ship, honestly. I think they should do that more. I just commented on InfoRunner's stream the other day about how one of the best game packages ever sold by CIG was the Carrack package, which had an Ursa rover and a C8X in it. Still a fantastic package. It's the one I have. You're getting the big mothership, you're getting the little ground vehicle, and the snub. Again, perfect package here. I would love for them to do more of that. I'm hoping they release a Perseus that comes with an RSI Ursa rover. It doesn't have to be a unique one, but I think having some sort of package there for people with a slight discount would be great. And then there we go. That's that bit of information. Next here, we're going to go to, actually, I'm going to bring this up. Stand by, everybody. Next, we're going to talk about this, and we're going to look at this in more detail here. I know it's kind of small, but there's 3 decks on the ship. The first is the Orlop deck, or the cargo bay. Essentially, it's a 50 SCU cargo bay, which offers enough room for a small vehicle up to and including an RSI, a rover. It also has access to the back turret. Now, as well as the airlocks. This cargo area, though, could have been expanded. We don't have any indications that the ship has increased in size, by the way, at least not yet. We'll go ahead and zoom in now. So again, we have on the orlop deck here, we have the main cargo area here, which again is, you can see the elevator here in the middle. It's going to be able to carry an Ursa rover, and I would imagine a little bit extra as well. I think you're going to be able to get an Ursa rover, maybe even 2 in there pretty comfortably. We have an airlock here that sort of looks like it connects directly with the cargo bay. So when you walk in via the Capital airlocks, you will walk into the cargo bay. At least that's how it looks now. Once you get in there, there'll be an entryway that moves further back here that goes to an access point with a staircase, or sorry, a ladder that moves up to the next deck, or you can move directly back into an area that has the bottom dual size 8, used to be dual size 7, but the rear bottom dual size 8 man turret. Okay, so that's how you're going to access that. So if you're up on a higher deck, you're going to be able to come right down this ladder and then move directly to the turret position. Nice, quick, simple layout here on the bottom orlop deck. So again, I really like what they're doing here in terms of the layout. Okay. Moving to the gun deck, this is one of the primary decks here. We have our upper turret access, which gives that front man turret access. Right here, we have the torpedo bay, which I imagine will be reconfigured a bit. We've heard some rumors that the Polaris is going to have its torpedo control station moved, or a secondary torpedo control station put on the Polaris. I personally hope it goes to the bridge. I think the bridge seat could use the torpedo thing, and maybe they could change that torpedo room to be a maintenance room where you still see the torpedoes there in the tubes, but there could be some like additional fuses and engineering things in there to give you a reason to go into that room. Over here, we have crew quarters. Again, we'll take a better look at that here in a minute. We have the captain's quarters here in the rear, and then down here we have the mess hall. Now I'm going to go ahead and bring up this gun deck, as they call it, and we'll zoom in a little bit. Again, over here you'll see the man turret access, or sorry, the access to the man turret, the dual size 8 up here at the front. We have the torpedo room, which has kind of a similar vibe to the Polaris one with the torpedo fire control stations here again. This could have very well been reconcepted to where they have the torpedo fire stations on the bridge. If they've done that, then what I suspect we'll get here is more engineering elements for that resource management gameplay. We do have a little bit of area here. They could put some additional components, fuse boxes, fire hydrants there. We have a gantry or of a sort of a top walkway here, gantry walkway that goes across the top of the cargo area, so you can be able to look down on that, which is kind of cool. Moving further back here, here's that ladder access way again to get up from to the gun deck to the orlop deck. Confusing my words here, everybody. When you move up the small staircase here, you will then get to an intersection here. One moves back to the captain's room, looks decently spacious, comes with a desk, I imagine a small bathroom area and a sleeping quarters. If you move down here, though, to below, you get a small habitation area here. They're showing it with a pool table, the couch layout, big eating table, and then obviously up here would be kitchenette and all that kind of stuff. Moving up this other direction here, you're going to have crew habitation. Now in here, we're seeing 1 bed, 2, 3, probably another one over here, 4, 5, 6. So it looks like room for 6 here in the sleeping quarters. And then these other areas up here are going to be possibly a combination of well, I guess that would need to be bathroom, right? There could be some bathroom areas in here, possibly leading through here. I'm not really sure where they're planning on putting those. But either way, I imagine you're going to have storage and stuff like that. So that is your gun deck. Pretty simply laid out. Again, habitation and offices back here. gun and weapon access up near the front of the ship with a gulf in between them, which is actually pretty nice layout, if I don't say so myself. All right, moving next here, we get the bridge deck, smallest of the decks, but obviously one of the most important here. Says here, I like how they refer to it as a near replica of the military Perseus bridge, upgraded with necessary technology to bring it in the modern era. That's something that's important we're going to talk about here in a minute, okay? Specifically in regard to the Perseus's design, because it's actually a really old ship. If any of you go back and look at Paul Shelley's video on the UE Navy, he talks about the Perseus a bit, and it's actually a really, really old ship. Escape pods, obviously access to the escape pods, and then ultimately access to one element of engineering, one small engineering room. I imagine those will be scattered throughout the ship, though. I'll go ahead and bring up a detail of this area now so we can look at it. Again, the bridge area has room for 3. Again, I would love one of these stations to be torpedo control, absolutely, while the other one can control the turrets. Maybe they both can control the turrets, but it would be nice if one of these could commandeer the torpedo control. Moving further back here, we'll have the escape pods. You can see one here, one here. There's probably 2 more on the other side here of this cutaway. We again have that ladder access way. So that ladder access is going to go all the way top to bottom. This could be an elevator here too. I see a ladder, but it could be an elevator here too. I imagine they'll put in an elevator if I had to guess. And then moving further back here to sort of an engineering suite at the top of the bridge. I imagine we'll have some components back here, an engineering terminal, all that kind of good stuff. Okay. Perseus by the numbers, 100-meter length. I know a lot of you were discussing it in chat there. The ship is indeed shorter than the Hammerhead. We're going to look at that in more detail here in a second. A lot of people I found have, I guess, got it in their head that the Perseus is much bigger than they thought it was. I've heard people say, oh, the Perseus is like 125 meters or 130 meters. No, it's a pretty small ship. In terms of large ships, it sits kind of right in the middle of what's considered large in Star Citizen. Star Citizen's large ships start anywhere around that 55, 60 meter range. Around 55 meters, probably 50 meters, something like that. So Corsair, think Corsair, and go all the way up to really like about 140 meters, being the absolute top end of that large size. Thank you for that follow, Shady. Appreciate it. Do I have my follow turned off? Why? Oh, there it is. Turn that back on. There goes the javelin. Thank you very much. The ship is 50 meters wide and 21 meters high. Max crew is 6. Max cargo capacity 50 SCU. Again, very much subject to change. And max SCM speed 92 meters a second. Again, speed, all those stats for speed, yaw rate, all the performance metrics of the ship, I would take with a grain of salt. They're going to change 1,000 times over. I tell everyone, do not read into those metrics very much. Okay, this ship is designed to be a brawler. It's not supposed to be fast like the Perseus. It's supposed to be a slow, heavy armored brawler. Okay, that's what the goal is behind this ship. Logar Wilco, thank you for the follow. I appreciate you very much. So it's supposed to be a brawler. Some additional imagery down here. We see the Perseus from the rear here moving in formation along with a Bengal carrier. This image here, we see this is inside that torpedo room, showing those torpedo control stations. Again, very much. Oh, did I say the Perseus again? It's not supposed to be fast like the Polaris. Those names are too similar. It's not supposed to be fast like the Polaris. Sorry, it's supposed to be slow and very much a brawler. Thanks for calling that out, Savi. I'm obviously going to make that mistake 1,000 times, I think, today. One thing I think that's interesting to note here is some of this design aesthetic inside. If you think it has elements of the Polaris and Zeus kind of combined, because it kind of does. These columns here look very Zeus-like, and the floor looks very Polaris-like. If you think that it does have a little bit of both, you're correct. It does. John Crew even confirmed recently on an ISC that the Perseus will have a combination of those two design languages. It'll lean more heavily towards the Polaris's design language, but it will have a little bit of that Zeus design language in it as well. Okay. Moving further along here, we can see the Galaxy, or sorry, the Galaxy. Now I'm really messing it up. The Perseus flying through, firing in its main gun there, the dual, what will now be a dual size 8. Here's a detail of that manned weapon here on the top. Again, these are bespoke. We've heard a lot of information surrounding the fact that these are going to support multiple different ammo types. I think this is going to be something that carries over to a lot of different types of ships, by the way. I think ammo types are something that are going to come and make a really big impact on the game. It was even a year and a half ago or something, we saw on the progress tracker, or maybe it was 2 years ago, we saw work was being done on multiple ammo types, including incendiary and other types of rounds. So, yeah, and it's possible. Maybe the first cannons to have flak rounds. We don't know. We know CIG is working on it, but we haven't seen those. That variety and the types of rounds one can put in a ballistic cannon, or even an energy-based cannon. We haven't seen those variations yet, really. Another detailed shot of the Perseus leaving a station. It's got a really cool aggressive look, and seeing what they did with the Polaris, the Perseus is going to benefit heavily from that. I'm really excited to see what the exterior looks like. This is a detail area here of the side of the ship. What we are looking at here is the escape module ejection ports. So these open up and shoot ejection, escape pods out of them. So that's what those are. We see a cool image here showing the Perseus landed. You get a good sense of the landing gears. I do think these landing gears will change a lot and become a lot more beefier. This was another change that was brought into the Polaris. The Polaris originally had gears that were very similar to what you're seeing here, and then those got updated to be a lot beefier. I would think because of the mass and the weight of the Perseus, and it's supposed to be this heavy armored brawler, I would think those changes to the landing gears will come over to the Perseus. If you've ever watched some of CIG's ship focus videos, you'll actually see them talk a lot about landing gear design throughout different ships, and it looks like they put a lot of thought into that because it's also one of the most articulated areas in terms of animation on a ship. So I think the landing gears always get a lot of attention. So Revelist says, according to the Q&A, the main turrets can be bladed. Have you heard anything new if CIG plans to let us do that? I haven't heard anything about that yet. However, we did hear a rumor that, you know how we just got the avionics blades, right, which are the speed and the maneuverability blades. There was a rumor that a CIG said that the next blades will be turret-based blades, like defensive blades. So we'll see. We'll see. Here, just another fun detail there of workers assembling a Perseus in dry dock. So pretty cool, or if you want to call it dry dock. Another great image there showing some Perseuses waiting for this group of ships to fly by down here, Caterpillars and an Idris. Here we can see what looks to be the access point for the top manned turret. You can see the rounds in here. I hope we get to see something like that. That would be really cool. I don't know if CIG is doing that, but as you see here, it says keep clear auto loader. It'd be cool to be able to see the rounds there and even animating when the gun's firing. That would be so cool. Here we get the famous image of the Perseus ramming and flying through a hammerhead, or at least it looks like it's ramming it. I think that is one of CIG's bits of cheeky humor that some people either like or some people don't like, but the idea there is to sort of show, I think, where this ship sits in terms of its resilience. You know, it's up there with, and capability. It's up there with like the hammerheads. It plays in that category. Now they both have different focuses. Hammerhead primarily focusing on small fighters, right? Small, medium, heavy fighters. The Hammerhead's meant to dish out punishment to those, while the Perseus, with its main guns, its gunboat status, is more situated towards the larger ships. So Connie's coming in the area are going to want to watch out for this, Corsairs, all that kind of stuff, all the way up to playing, I think, a pretty important role in capital ship versus capital ship gameplay. Hebford says, on atmosphere, do you believe it will be more slow compared to the Polaris? I don't know. It's going to be tricky because this ship is much smaller than the Polaris. It's about 67 meters shorter, 68 meters shorter, but yet it's also supposed to be very heavily armored and slow. Again, supposed to be a brawler. So we're gonna see where it nets out against a Polaris, but at the same in the same vein, though, they're very different ships. They really operate in two completely different classes of vessel. Kyra Spider, thank you very much. I appreciate it. And the Hammerhead, I should say, by the way, everyone, the Hammerhead is deeply in need of some work. As Kel Rath just says there in chat, HH is in a bad place. It just needs work across the board. So I'm sure it'll get that at some point. Another detail of the Perseus flying there, you can see the line. It's got a really cool design to it. I think a lot of people are really attracted to the design of the Perseus. And then last but not least here, we have an image showing the airlock. We do know that that airlock connects, or at least looks like it connects directly to the main cargo area. Let's see here. There was some additional details here. Let's go through. I think the brochure kind of covers everything we talked about already. I do want to talk a little bit about, actually that's an interesting one there. You can see a little bit of that cutaway here. Again, this is a ship that's probably been, had a pretty decent concept mesh gone all the way through it. This is a Gavin Rothery ship, by the way. He was one of the principal designers on it. And personally, if I had to guess, the fact that the interior was so detailed out, the fact that they've got a really robust kit of RSI parts and pieces, especially with the work done on the Polaris, I would suspect that the Perseus is moving through production faster than average. Faster than average. You know, other content creators, I know info runners and I think myself have said multiple times that there's obviously kind of this 18-month to 24-month pipeline on ships depending on their complexity. Some shorter than that, at least it seems like it. It depends on where you maybe kind of start your definition of a ship's production work, but considering that it also has to move through downstream teams. The downstream teams, by the way, handle a lot of the visual effects, audio work, all that kind of stuff. So it hasn't been 18 months since they started working on the Perseus, and by the time IAE rolls around this year, it still will not have been 18 months technically, but it'll be getting close, and it's possible with everything in place for this ship, and that that this ship could still make some sort of IAE release. Now I know there's going to be some of you in chat, possibly. Alcatraz says, Starjump, when do we expect it to be released? There's been some people saying that it's definitely coming at IAE. I suspect it's coming at IAE. However, CIG has not said when it's coming. There was some rumored talk that John Crew said at the Chinese Bar Citizen post-dinner discussion that it was targeting IAE, but if you look at the ISC video released at that time with John Crew, he never says that. All he says is that it was not coming at Invictus. That's all he said. Senef says John Crew definitely promised IAE. He did not promise it on video, though. It was said that he said it, but there is no video of the words actually coming out of John Crew's mouth. Now, and Senate, that's not says no rumor. He said it. He. That's what I'm told too, but I don't have video of him saying it. Is what I said. If you have video, please send it to me of him actually saying the words. There was a number of things. There was a number of things that people said that John Crew said that he didn't actually say. John Crew even came out and corrected some of those things, namely the what people were saying that he said regarding the Nautilus. John Crew felt the need to come out and fix that because it was not translated well. So I'm not saying he didn't say it. I'm just saying we don't have proof that he said it exactly like that. Okay. And I'm going to show you a video here in a minute to highlight exactly what he said on ISC. Yeah, Humphrey says, oh, I remember him saying that in an SCL, I think. All John says in the SCL, and we are going to look at, is that it's not coming for Invictus. That's all he says. That's all he says. We're going to watch that here in a minute. There we go. So that's the brochure. Real quick here, let's go ahead and go to that because I know that's kind of what we're talking about right now. We're going to skip to 16 minutes, 42 seconds when they're talking about RSI ships, okay? So let's go ahead and watch this for a minute.
Especially the interior. Will the Galaxy follow a similar style?
Talking about the Galaxy right now.
Yes, obviously we talked about it, CitizenCon doing the RSI ships in sort of sequence. So we've done the Polaris, doing the Perseus at the moment, and then the Galaxy will be after.
So right there, he says, we're doing the Perseus at the moment, meaning they're working on it. Remember, this ISC came out during Invictus, okay?
The difference in the Galaxy is it's a civilian ship. It's not the RSI military theme. So the Polaris and Perseus share a lot of visual cues together and materials and lighting. It does take bits from the Zeus, but not everything. And you will see more of the Zeus styling in the Galaxy, and other RSI ships this year will have that Zeus aesthetic rather than the Polaris and Perseus one.
Yeah, I love that. The RSI interior, the Zeus interior. Yeah.
Now going back to that comment, yeah, video volume's low. It's literally boosted as high as the video can go. Sometimes CIG releases videos where the volume's too low. It's literally boosted as high as it will go. Sorry, everybody. And it's boosted in OBS as high as it will go. But where I was going with this is that if you look, one of the things that the Perseus page said is that it had been updated from the old military ship for the modern, the modern target demographic. So for modern times. So what you can expect to see is some of those modern Polaris design aesthetic elements, especially maybe on the bridge. We may see some of that carry over into the Perseus, because remember, the Polaris is technically a new ship in lore. So yeah. Let's see here. Yeah. Kelross says agreed, not a promise, but he did say IAE. Yeah, I just wish someone would have got that on video, is my thing. And if anyone has a video of John Crew actually saying it, please send it to me. Send it to me. I will arrange somehow for you to send me the video. But I watch every ship video. I pretty much am a John Crew fanboy, and I have found nothing of him saying that it is on video of him saying it's coming at IAE this year. Now, it was rumored, or that tons of people came out and said that he said it at the Bar Citizen event in China at a dinner or something. I have all the notes of all the stuff he said about the Perseus. This is where he talked about the size 8s, where he talked about the PDCs, and that it was coming at IAE. I know all that. I already know all that. But that was translated like 2 or 3 times. It's been proven that a few of the things that were translated were wrong. I still believe it's coming out at IAE. I still very much believe that. But I'm looking for video proof that John Crew said it. Okay. Let's continue watching for a minute.
Personally, I'm not a big fan of the Dorito shape, but the interior just knocked me on my butt.
Yeah.
And what I love the Zeus interior. So you mentioned the Perseus. I read on Reddit that that's coming in Invictus this year.
It's not. Don't believe everything.
What did he say there? He just straight up said, I heard the Perseus was coming at Invictus this year, which was only about a week away from this ISC, or maybe a couple days. And John Crew said, no, it's not. That's all he said, is it's not coming for Invictus. He didn't say it's not coming for Invictus, but definitely going to be here for IAE or anything like that. He just said not Invictus. Now, again, very much could mean that it's coming for IAE. 100% could be. It'd be the perfect IAE ship. It also could not. Maybe we're going to get the Ironclad for IAE, and the Perseus is next in, after that. Who knows? I don't know. But there we go. Will AI video? Yes. No. I'm sure I'm going to get some AI videos sent to me for sure. I'm going to get some AI videos sent to me. Let's go into Hanger Link real quick. I wanted to show a couple things. Let's bring up a Perseus. Let's bring up the Hammerhead, Polaris, Idris. All right, let's auto layout these. So you can kind of see here, everyone, where the Perseus sits in terms of size. Again, pretty small ship. A lot of people didn't realize that for quite a while. I still get people telling me that my size of the Perseus is wrong on Fleet Viewer, but it's not. There you go. It's a pretty small ship. It is, you could do 2.5 Perseuses could fit on the length of an Idris, right? VMXEOS is working on that AI video now. Yeah. Citizen Ninja says, or Sitcon. Yeah, the Perseus could come at Sitcon too. Again, everyone, I 100% think the Perseus is coming this year. I feel confident. I feel good about it. I feel real good about it. This is why we're giving away a Perseus. Okay. I feel very good about it. Okay. But it's possible it won't. It's possible it won't. The issue with the Perseus 2 and a lot of the ships under development right now, and you would have heard this on my my show on variants, was that this year, and I don't want to speak for CIG, obviously I'm not a developer. I hear certain things, but I wouldn't say I have any more real info than any of you have. But what I would say is, and I think you would all agree, that this is a very different year for ship production as well, right? As they showed us at last year's CitizenCon, or IAE, last year's IAE, or no, it was CitizenCon. Yep, CitizenCon. When they showed us the silhouette video, they have a number of big ships in development, right? And I say big. I'm not trying to say large or capital. I'm just saying bigger ships. They have everything from the Starlancer build, which we know is being worked on. They just finished the Starlancer TAC not too long ago. They were obviously doing work on the Idris. They're probably doing work on the Javelin. Griff, that is the website we here at Starjump created called StarjumpFleetViewer.com. Putting the link down there for you in chat. Griff, make sure you check it out. That's the app we developed here at Starjump. VMXEO, I know, is in chat. VMXEO is one of the lead people on Fleet Viewer, along with myself and Starlet. So, and not only that, we know that they're working on the Ironclad, of which there's 2 variants, right? We know they're working on the Pioneer, which is a massively, massively complicated ship that, in my opinion, will probably be one of the longest in development ships they've ever had to do, if you asked me. If you take away the pauses some other ships have had, like the Hull C and stuff, I think the Pioneer could end up being one of the longest in development ships, primarily because it has so many new functions that are not even in game yet in it. Fabrication hangars, integrated resource extractors, onboard ship refinery, crafting stations, on and on, drones. So they're working on a lot of big ships right now. That's why we're seeing a lot of variants, okay? We're also going to get some new ships, right? Like the Golem. And we're about to get the Meteor, which we know is a Mantis variant, essentially. But where I'm going with this is, we don't really know how this year is going to shake out. When they were working on the Polaris the year before and finishing that up, the Polaris was kind of the big ship in development. If you go back and look at that the silhouette video from 2023, the Polaris was kind of the only big ship in there. I think the other one was the Retaliator rework. This latest silhouette video, there's a number of big ships in there, and some that weren't, that we know they're working on. We knew they were working on the Idris. We know they're working on the Javelin. Okay, the Javelin's been receiving changes. Baskets, thank you for the follow. Blakale Kurama, Kurosaki, Hamerick, Mason Cold Iron, Logar, Shady Hazel, all thank you for their follows today. Appreciate it. So we don't really know how this year is going to shake out. A lot of people want to immediately go, well, the Polaris came out of IAE, so definitely the Perseus will. It very well may work out that way, but again, we just don't know for sure. We don't know for sure. That whole thing could change a bit. Hepford says, do you think there'll be versions of the Perseus or variants? No. But what I'm wondering is if we're going to get kits for the Perseus. I think we'll get kits. There could be an energy weapon based kit. There could be a kit that changes out some of the turrets on there. We'll have to see, but I think we're going to get kits. I think one of the big ones right off the bat would be some sort of beam weapon variant of the Perseus. I think that could be a thing. Some sort of beam weapon variant. They could also do a variant that they replace one of the manned big primary guns with some like a large missile launcher battery that maybe holds like 32 missiles or something crazy. Who knows? But yes, I have a feeling we could get Perseus kits. Maybe not plural, but maybe a second kit for it. Maybe that second kit changes stuff internally on the ship too. We don't really know. I think the kits seem to be relegated to armament, but we don't really know yet. John says beam equals lame. Yep. If you don't like the beams, maybe so. There could be a kit, for example, that maybe takes away. I'm just spitballing here. Obviously, this could change. I mean, they could go crazy and do something where maybe you lose some storage. Eagle0013 resubscribe for 6 months at tier 2. Thank you very much, Eagle. Appreciate you. Salute to you. Just sent the Kraken overhead. Best ship. But they could do something where they take away a little bit of the cargo area and do a kit that does bigger torpedoes. Who knows? I mean, honestly, the sky's the limit. I do think, though, they're going to keep the Perseus pretty single-minded focus, though. I think it's meant to be a gunboat. You know what I mean? Carolus says, do you think the Perseus will be ready in time for IAE? We discussed that. I think it will be. I think it can be. I think it could, if they're really pushing hard on it. Hefe Momo, hi Grim. For the module OG, the Apollo 322 medbed, talking about the medbed modules, do you think they're going to sell them when the ship release? That's going to be interesting. I'm really curious on how they're going to delineate those ships in a meaningful way. I could see that being a kit as well, different sort of medical layouts in the Apollo, and those are different kits. We'll have to see. I'm really interested in seeing that, though. You bring up a great point. Let's go ahead and watch the Inside Star Citizen called Enter Perseus. This is from fall of 2020 when the ship was revealed. So the ship is now 5 years old in concept, but we know being worked on right now. We're going to go ahead and play this. It's only 7 minutes long. Hopefully the volume is okay. I'll try to boost it if it's too low, though.
So this ship is really a military ship. It's about destroying other big ships.
Because it's so formidable that you're in a fight, and if somebody turns up with a fleet and it's...
Everyone, one of the people talking in this video is the former art director for ships, which was Paul Jones. Paul is very known to talk very quietly. Okay, he's known to talk very quietly, so there may be times during this video where it is harder to hear him. I am going to add a gain to this channel so I can boost volume a little bit. Hopefully this helps.
Stacked full of gunships, you're just going to be like, oh damn.
A fleet in Star Citizen is sort of built around a capital ship, or capital ships as its core. So you have the Javelin, which is a destroyer, so that is designed for really duking it out with other big capital
Thank
ships.
you for the follow.
You have the Idris, which is a carrier, so can sort of take on other big ships. It's got a big railgun on the front, but primarily it's there to deliver fighters. And then you have the Polaris, which is a long-range torpedo boat. And you have the Hammerhead, which is a great anti-fighter screen. But what we're missing is this hybrid role that sits between the Hammerhead and the Polaris, that is your fleet defense ship, that is moderately large size and capable of dishing out firepower to deal with large ship threats that aren't quite capital ships.
It has been a while since we've done an RSI ship. Obviously there are some in the fleet already, and then you take all those and you fold in the functionality.
When we were designing this ship, it was obviously built around the concept of having these large turrets, that you had a bridge on the front, but it sort of just felt like a Polaris with a turret on the top of it.
So one thing I do like about the Perseus, though, is that it was thought of in terms of where it sits in a fleet, and thought of in terms of fleet defense. I personally hope CIG does the same consideration for the Nautilus. I would put the Nautilus sort of in that category of ships as well. We'll have to see what CIG does with that. Obviously, the Nautilus is waiting on gameplay. But I do love that CIG is at least considering, and the Perseus is kind of a newer concept. I do like the idea, though, that CIG is considering the Perseus in terms of how it fits in that overall fleet, fleet dynamic.
On the bottom, and for a ship of this style, having that bridge at the front didn't quite sit well with us, so we then tried alternates with a more traditional bridge, taking cues from the Bengal, and that definitely looked better, but then has the knock-on that the upper front turret has a blind spot behind, so we had to make sure that the rear turret could not have a blind spot there, and then deal with the point defense system turrets to help alleviate those spots.
You want it to look aggressive, but you also want it to be unique. You want it to look like it's part of the family. When you see this ship, you know you're...
Again, I think one of the big things that sticks out for people is the Perseus's design. Just really, really cool design. It's got the sort of aggressive arrowhead shape of the Polaris, but where maybe the Polaris is a little bit more triangular Dorito, this one's a little bit more arrowhead, and I think people, or spearhead, yeah, so people really like that. I talk ships with a lot of people, and I can tell you that the Perseus is definitely one of the most popular. People just love it. They really do. Again, don't forget, everybody, we are doing a Perseus giveaway. Very easy to enter that. All you need to do is go to the link I'm posting in chat. And there's a few ways to get in on that giveaway. We'll give that away at the end of July. It's going to be a Perseus gunship, 120-month insurance, by the way, on that. All right, let's continue on.
You're in trouble. That's what players are looking for.
So originally the brief for the ship was a real skeleton crew of 4-man. So you had the pilot, the captain, and the 2 turrets.
Yeah, actually, Socially Confused says this. Let me go back to this image. He says the size 7 guns there do look a little small in that photo, and I agree. I think that's a great point. Socially Confused. There's actually some decent room there, I think, to upscale those guns, and I think that combined with the upgunning of some of the ships already, i.e. the Polaris, the Perseus, the Polaris and the Idris both had some upgunning coming to it. That it makes sense that this ship, combined with the idea that it's got some room on the deck there, to be upgunned a little bit to dual size 8. So again, don't forget there's this same turret here is also on the bottom rear. Center 55 just subscribed for 8 months in a row. Center, thank you very much, buddy. I appreciate you. Thank you for all the follows, everyone. You're all amazing. Appreciate that. Ugbug the Destroyer, Rice with black beans. That kind of makes me hungry. ATV Shatter, Eagle 0013, New Jersey Baskets, or NJ Baskets, sorry. Blacktail Karama. Thank you for your follows. Really appreciate it.
You know you're in trouble. That's what players are looking for.
So originally the brief for the ship was a real skeleton crew of 4-man. So you had the pilot, the captain, and the 2 turret gunners. But as we developed the ship, it sort of felt a bit odd that such a small crew was operating such a relatively large ship. So the crew size for the ship is...
Real quick, I'm pausing again there. I've heard some people say that the bottom turret is not on this photo. It actually is. It's just extremely hard to see. This piece here is the bottom turret. It's just very hard to see, and the gun's right there as well. I think when this deploys, or when you get in it, it might push out a little bit. But the turret is there. It's just very hard to see. You can actually see the numbers. From a texture, they're right there. It's the same numbers that's on this turret up here, the 01. That 01 is down there as well. It's just hard to see, but it is there.
To be large ship. So the crew size for the ship is 6-man. That gives you a pilot, captain, 2 manned turret guns.
See white box there at the
S7
bridge.
Twin turrets are manned. And then it leaves you with these 2 extra roles that are really flexible in terms of what you want them to do.
So we wanted to layer in all the functionality that John wanted, but also make it easy to...
You can see there some of the additional cutaway stuff there. Again, this is early concept mesh stuff, just showing how basically the ship is going to be laid out. There's still a little bit of room tucked here and there for little things. So what that means a lot of times when you see some of these little areas that are undefined, what those end up becoming, by the way, generally are things like armories, weapon lockers, stuff like that, suit lockers, etc. So I would imagine somewhere near the airlock, there's going to be a weapon locker and a suit locker and stuff like that. And this ship does not have med beds. So Poutine, this does not have med beds.
To navigate. It should be clear for the player at any point what part of the ship they're in. And it's split over 3 decks. So the lower deck is your cargo and access to
this. I think some of this is kind of old. I'm a little unsure, but some of this does look kind of old to me. And where you can see that is this top turret is now no longer a PDC. It almost looks like a larger sort of turret. I don't really know what that is. And then later on here, they actually show there being a ramp. I would love for there still to be a ramp, and I don't know what this turret is here. Again, this I think is pretty old and has been updated quite a bit since then. I don't think we're getting a ramp. I think it's a drop-down elevator for vehicles. So just heads up on that.
To the lower turret.
Thank you, Wild Dice.
And then you go up.
Thank you, Jed Wild.
Sort of the main deck, and that goes from front to back. You can reach your front turret.
It's been a while since we've seen new concept stuff of this ship, actually.
Into habitation and the captain's room. And there's also a central lift for ease of navigation.
So there, they said the central lift. This back ramp, though, I mean, even if you look here, this ramp goes up, but it goes right into these structures that would prevent you from driving through it. This, to me, is a very old concept here. You can actually look here. This is where the captain's room is supposed to be, but currently they have this room as some sort of like mess area or meeting area or something. We know this has changed a lot, though. This has also got this rather large turret up here, not the PDC that it eventually gets replaced with. So I think what they're showing here is just very, very, very old concept mesh. That's why it looks so simplified.
Basically. And then the top floor is bridge, escape pod.
While this is much more refined.
Pods and engineering section. So for a player, it should all be quite straightforward.
I think this ship really will add something to the fleet gameplay that is growing within Star Citizen. We've already seen aspects of that with the Invictus launch week.
Thank you,
seen
Raptor.
the capital ships in game. There's obviously the Hammerhead in game already. When this is in game, you'll also have much more of a rounded fleet to play with that will provide a great threat and deterrence to other players.
The RSI Perseus is the latest concept.
Thank you, Execute. Info runners in the chat. Execute, obviously, very knowledgeable about ships as well. Make sure you check out Info Runners channel if you haven't already. Yeah, it's people like the Perseus, Execute. They love the Perseus. It's a ship that I think has always attracted a lot of attention. And we're doing a giveaway for it right now, everybody. We're doing a Perseus giveaway. How cool is that? Make sure you follow the Gleam.io link for your chance to win that. Be giving that away at the end of July. Okay, the end of July. There's that link again. Execute says, good to see so many watching. Smash that like button. Thank you very much, X. I hope you're well, bro. Perseus. Again, I think now we can talk a little bit about speculation on this ship, because that means the price is going up. Yeah, it's true. It's true. John Chase says they clearly state the ramp is from an older design and was removed. Right. Okay, cool. So John, that I guess that was stated. Good. Yeah, it looks like it's just a lift now for that. That old concept mesh stuff was so super old. Ethel, hopefully I'm saying that right. I wonder how much cargo it can hold. Supposedly it can hold about 50 SCU. However, it wouldn't shock me if that's been upped a little bit. It seems like CIG has started looking at some of the cargo holds of some of the ships and looking for more efficient ways of stacking and situating cargo to sort of help with bringing in bigger cargo loads. Lazy Donuts, thank you for that 16-month in a row subscription. Appreciate it. So I think it's possible the 50 SCU could go up. I mean, I don't think it'd go up a lot, but it could turn into 60 or 65 SCU. It could turn into something like that. Hyperion says, rumor mill says they dropped the PDCs and upgunned again to 2 size 9s. I have not heard that. Execute, I know you're in chat. I don't know if you've heard anything about that as well. I have not heard anything about that though. I'm actually going to go to my leaks here and see if I can find that information. Bear with me. Again, some information that was talked about at that Perseus event here said the Perseus is currently in a gray box state, which, again, if this was Invictus, that makes me, I don't know. I haven't heard that either, Execute. I don't know if if you want to jump in chat real quick, Execute, but you can to Theorycraft on this ship a little bit, because I know you hear a lot of things too, but I don't think it's a guarantee that this ship is making Invictus or IAE. I don't think that's a guarantee yet. Hey, Execute. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. How you doing, mate?
Good, man. So we're talking Perseus, and this comes up in almost every stream where I talk about the Perseus. I know you've talked a little bit about it too, but specifically in regards to that whole Chinese bar citizen thing where John Crew talked behind the scenes, not on camera, and said a lot of things supposedly. There's a lot of people that are under the impression this is definitely coming for IAE, and it very well may. I hope it does. I think it possibly could. But, as I was saying, he never actually says that on video. He just says it wasn't coming from Invictus. We know there's an 18-month development time for ships. We do know that they can pull from a large kit of assets from the Polaris and stuff. But I would ask you, what do you think are the chances this will hit IAE? Because I think it's kind of 50-50 right now, personally, for this one.
I'm kind of in the same ballpark, to be honest, because after Invictus, I really thought we were getting the Ironclad, based on the 18-month turnaround.
Yeah.
But the one thing that we kind of didn't think of is they can pause them or move off them and then come back. So they do all take 18 months.
Yeah.
But if they just happen to move on to something else for a month, well, then all of a sudden it took 19.
Right, which we sort of heard about with the Ironclad recently. In one of the PU monthly reports, they said they briefly paused it so they could work on some Invictus stuff. So, and this isn't to call anyone out in chat, by the way, who read something that said John Cruz said that it was coming to IE. Maybe that's right. Maybe that is the target. Maybe he definitely said that. It's just when you go by the 18-month long development time, even if they're pushing exceptionally hard on the Perseus, IAE's tight. I mean, and they've got other ships on deck. I mean, we could very well see just the Ironclad this IAE. You know what I mean?
That's what I was going to say to you. I would say that it's either going to be one or the other.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah, I
it'd
agree.
either be the ironclad or the
I would agree with
and
that.
if you think about it from a lore perspective, you'd probably want to put the Perseus at the Perseus is definitely more popular, right? So from a sales perspective, and let's be honest, if you really want to look at this with how would I do it if I was a developer, they would have marketing going, we need this, we need this for here, it's got to be right here so we can make a killing. Like that's how marketing going to go about it. And I would argue, and I think you'd agree with me, I think Shat would agree with me, that this is a very anticipated ship, and if you were going to sell it at peak time, that would be the summer sale.
Yeah.
Wait, no, not summer, because you guys are
or not summer sale, but
IAE.
IAE,
yeah.
I
It's
mean,
my summer. Sorry.
yeah, I agree. Agreed. It's they're going to need, obviously IAE and Sitcon. Really, there's always, I don't know if I'll always say big ship, but important ships are sold at that time period. Now, yes, we do know that we have these monthly sort of cadence patches right now, and those are, we've seemed to be getting a ship with each one of those. But still, these big marquee ships, so, Perseus, things like the Starlancer, TAC, at Invictus and stuff like that, Idris came at Invictus, those big marquee ships are going to come during those big sales periods, because that's, when you have CIG marketing doing all their planning for the year, and they're splitting up their time amongst all the events and all the things they need to market and their marketing plans, probably the most amount of marketing dollars and effort goes towards those big events. That's where they're going to put the big ships. You know what I mean? Not always, but I think majority of the time. So
I 100% agree. Yeah, absolutely.
So here's another question. So one of the things I think we're all sort of debating here is we did hear, again, rumor, although this rumor's backed up a little bit with some code that was found in the game, of the Perseus getting upgunned, where it's dual size 7s are being moved up to dual size 8s. These will be the first size 8 guns in game, if I'm not mistaken. Do you expect or have any sort of feeling that they could bring kits to the Perseus? And if so, what would those kits be?
I think all capital ships of some description need progression.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That said, this isn't a capital.
That's right.
This isn't a capital. It is a large. So it's Hammerhead, it's Nautilus, it's it's one size down from the Polaris. Which is why I said to John Crew when he said the Ironclad was the Corvette, I said no.
Well, John's referred to the Perseus as a capital before. He made a Spectrum post where he referred to the Perseus as a capital, and that's just because he's probably working on so many damn ships. He can't, it just gets he just probably buckets them in very broad ways. But I agree. I would love. I'll be honest with you. I would love. Well, ultimately, hopefully, through things like blades and resource management and tuning and all that kind of stuff, all ships, regardless of size, will get some element of progression. But I agree with you that capitals and large ships, I feel, really should have additional paths for progression through just the tier system that we know they'll eventually have.
Yeah. Maybe so for example, how the Idris essentially has got 3 of them. Mm-hmm. So you've got the P, the K, the T, the M. So there's 4 in total. Maybe the largest just get 2.
Mm-hmm.
So they get the default, and then they get an upgraded one.
Yeah.
But that's probably enough, to be honest with you. But
could we get a beam variant of the Perseus? Does that make any sense to you?
Look, at the start of the year, they said, or towards the start of the year, they said this year is the year of beams.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if that was a joke because we keep calling it Beam Citizen,
right?
But you could be onto something there, mate. You really could.
It could be. This would be a lot of sense. It'd be the first time we're seeing dual beam weapons. Not that they couldn't replace the turret, where it's maybe got a power source on one side and then just a single beam cannon on the other. Who knows? But
again,
thank you, Wolf.
They are bespoke turrets. They could just have a single gun.
It could, absolutely could be, yeah. Another aspect of this ship that we could see some level of kit based, stuff coming would be in regards to its PDCs. I was pretty surprised when the Idris T came out that it came with additional options for the PDCs on the Idris, those pepper box missile launcher things, which really got me thinking that put aside the whole torpedo chin mount thing, just thinking about the PDC progression and customization that you can do on ships, we could see, for example, beam-based PDCs, but coming to the Perseus, we could see maybe the pepper boxes also come to this as an option, but maybe they bring on yet a third PDC type that can be implemented on all the ships that support them. I don't know, but I could definitely see beam PDCs coming.
I'd probably imagine that any ship that has a PDC, you'll be able to swap it over to another PDC.
Say again?
So if a ship has a PDC, right, no matter how many it has, that they're customizable, that you can swap them over to whatever you want them to be.
Yeah.
Lasers I wouldn't rule out. But the only downside to lasers is they really, well, I guess that's a downside, isn't it? They give away their position pretty heavily.
They do.
They're a lot harder to see when they're just firing.
Yeah.
But especially when they're ballistic, because you just don't see the trails.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, CIG could get totally crazy. I mean, technically, they could get totally crazy, and these turrets could, you could switch out one of the dual size 8s for some sort of large missile battery. I mean, the sky's the limit with these. I do think that CIG, we'll see, the Idris kind of changes for me. Before, I would have said that I think CIG still wants to keep most ships, even if there's some progression and customization to them, they still sort of want to keep them what they are, right? So it's a carrier or it's a gunship or whatever. The torpedo kit for this Idris really sort of flung me for a loop because it really did sort of change. Well, I guess the ship's still technically a carrier, but it did sort of change the role of the ship to some degree. I mean, would you agree with that, or do you think we'll see more of that? Because that was kind of that was out of left field. I never suspected it.
Yeah, it's hard to judge what they're going to do, but I do kind of tend to agree with you that this ship specifically, like if you look at the Perseus, it's essentially designed to kind of punch up and kill capital ships.
Yeah.
There are other ships around it that if you, for example, if they changed this, made it punch down, it would tread too much on the hammerhead, right? And then you've got the Nautilus that's defensive. If it was going to go anything, it would probably ships that take out other large ships.
Yeah.
So something that like maybe downsize the guns and then make quads or something like that. But I don't know how well that would go. I'd have to sit and think about that. But I'm just thinking about the question you said on the fly. I think I agree with your statement though. There probably should not change too much. So it's just an alternative vision.
Yeah, it's one of those things that I think with the Idris, it maybe was a little bit of a special case too, in that you're talking about a hull limited ship that has already been so known and so understood what it was and what we were getting, that I felt like for its initial sale, I think there was maybe even some discussion behind the scenes on CIG's side saying, hey, when we sell this, how can we make this feel, exciting and interesting and new again? Because the Idris was one of the, it's a known quantity. We all knew what it was. And I feel like a lot of people at that point had sort of made a decision to some degree on like, hey, is this a ship for me or not the ship for me? Where with the kits, things change. I think I saw people re-dissecting the Idris and what it could be used for all over again,
I'll tell you right now, look, if I had my money hat on and I wanted to make money, and I wanted to make a variant of this ship, it would be a drone ship. Because you could use the drones to cover the Perseus, much like working with the Perseus. But then essentially, a lot of people wanted a drone ship. This look with drones, license to print money.
Yeah, that's a great point. What's the cost of this ship? I can't remember. Is it
$675?
It's pricey. This is a pricey ship. What do you
do? What me and Algrid did, and don't buy it at full price. We got ours for around $300, and that's probably what it's worth realistically. Most large ships Caterpillars, Starfarers, they're
Yeah.
around that price.
Yeah, I think I got mine. I want to say I got mine either at 300 or 350. One of those price points is what I got it at.
Did you get it from the same person I got mine from?
Probably.
You know who I'm talking about, right? When I say that,
yeah,
mutual friend.
So mutual friend. Cool. Yes, yeah. That's who I got it from. I was able to get the War Thunder or War Cloud Thunder, whatever paint is too. So I'm excited about that.
Yep, I've got that as well. I had it in buyback.
Yeah, I agree with you.
I saw one selling the other day for only like $20 on the black market. I'm like, holy crap! Someone's going to snatch that up. Yeah, that's a bargain.
That's not bad at all, especially for a concierge only paint. The paints when they truly were like hard to get, because I think they only sold them for the concept sale. And obviously this ship will get all kinds of other paints, but $675. That's pricey for a ship of this size. However,
it's knowing
that
it's the look.
Yeah, it's the look. Knowing that the Polaris went to $975, where do we think this one's going to end up? I think it's going to have a hard cap at about $750.
Well, see, that's the thing. Like, the Polaris wasn't meant to go as high as it was. It's traditionally it's between 10 to 20%. Yeah. So you're looking somewhere between $67 to $150 type of thing in that ballpark. Just rough numbers.
Yeah.
So $750 or more.
Yeah.
If I kind of look at my math, oh no, it's more. Actually, it's more than that. $750. Yeah, that's $825 type of thing. Yeah, I could give it $825.
Do you think getting that? Yeah, I think that for me, that would I feel like that's the top end, only because you start to get, well, say it gets a weird area where you can, one part of me goes, well, you're starting to really get close to the Polaris, but at the same time, again, it's important to remember that I don't know if CIG looks at them that way. I think they look at them as just different ships. You know what I mean?
So, and again, I'd be expecting $750 to $825, like just based on prior things. Yeah. But as I said, the Polaris went higher than it was meant to go, or what we suspected it to go. But we've had other ships do that. Look at the Hull C.
Right.
The Hull C went up $150 and no one saw that coming.
Yeah.
So again, they might look at this and go, oh, it's too high. We want to get more sales, so we won't go that high. They might just go to 700. I'm not even joking when I say that.
Sure.
It's just really hard to tell. And they have been, let's be honest, look at what happened to the Prowler. They have been open to knowing that certain ships went too high.
That's true. Yeah.
So and I think, I don't know, I put this off to everyone in chat. You let us know. But I think they did go too high with this ship. I really do.
Oh, yeah.
I think I think that they could have kept it at, like, say, 500, and that would have been fine. But and even then it's expensive, let's be honest, right?
Yeah.
But they really went, like, I kind of blame myself, because when this was coming out, by the way, I was doing SC leaks, and we pretty much hyped up this ship for almost an entire year. Right? It was the most exciting thing. Everyone was tuning in, like everyone wanted to know what it was. And then it comes out and just dropped, and I was baffled how high the price was.
Yeah.
But they knew from the engagement it was going to sell well.
Yeah, it's. I think, wasn't there some sort of chart too that tracks spending that actually showed how much money they made when this went live? Yeah.
If you type in Star Citizen funding tracker, it's that one that comes up with the different colored lines. Yeah. Down the bottom of it, you can actually see as you go across, there's this massive peak that goes up and down, and it's not many of them are listed by ship, but that one's listed. It literally says RSI Perseus.
Yeah.
Because it made as much money as RSI did completely the following year.
Right.
It was insane.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah, that's pretty wild. So I mean, I think the big question for this one, someone says 690 for sure. I think definitely you're going to see this war bond price. It's going to be minimum, of course, in the 700s. And possibility could go up to 825. With CIG tracking so good on funding already this year, it'll be interesting to see how aggressive they want to get. So I don't know.
Yeah.
But they've had such a banger year already that if this or possibly the Ironclad would throw in this category, but definitely if this ship does come out this year at IAE, I mean, it's just going to kill. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think there's a little bit of potential to speed it up too from the construction perspective, right? You know how I was talking about the 18 months. Most of the 18 months is checks and balances and people making sure for their department at CIG that they've got everything in there. That doesn't actually talk about the actual time to construct the ship. So for construction purposes, that might be sped up because we're still AIE is still within the 18-month window when it was kind of announced, right? That it was in work. So if you kind of look at that, look at the fact that they've got the Polaris, they've got the Zeus, all those kind of other Dorito ships that they worked on.
Yeah.
We know that they wanted to work on the Galaxy. That's why they were working on all three at once, right? So when they probably made a bunch of doors and stuff for the Polaris, they probably had a lot of others there that were used for this and the Galaxy.
Yeah.
So I'd have to assume there's a little bit of speed up, and I think you'd agree with me on that.
I agree with that. Originally, I had some concerns about this ship from a lore perspective being so much older than the Polaris. I was like, well, how's a lot of that going to transfer over? But when you read the Polaris, when you read the Perseus page, they specifically say there that aspects of the Perseus have been updated for the modern market. So, for example, I could see they could literally bring the Polaris bridge elements, so the glass displays, the chairs, all that's just going to probably come right on over. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It is an update. It is an old ship from a lore perspective, as you said, but when they pulled it out of mothballs, they gave it a full update. Yeah. So it's just been it's a what do you call it? It's almost like a Mark II. I don't want to say that, but it is almost like a Mark II. Yeah. I expect it to be updated quite a bit.
Yeah, and that can transfer over to things like landing gears, all that. They could take the Polaris landing gears and sort of like trim and cut some of the fat away on those to make it fit. Engine elements, obviously things that are very boilerplate like airlocks and stuff like that can transfer directly over. Where the Polaris brought in new stuff, for example, the big size 10 torpedoes, meaning and the fact that you had to have this sort of torpedo firing room. It brought in some new design elements from RSI in general, all that kind of stuff. This one is really just kind of a smaller take on that, especially when you consider the bespoke size 6 on the Polaris. This one is really just a smaller take on that, like smaller form factor take. It's got bespoke guns, it's got torpedoes, it's got all the kind of standard stuff, so there's no like new tech that needs to be dealt with on this. Matter of fact, the only thing that's really an unknown on this ship that's kind of could possibly be a thing is the guns themselves and the supposed varied type of ammunition they're going to be able to fire.
They did say that was coming with it. I do have a quick question for you though, because you've been making me think while I've been sitting here. Remember how you were talking about the Drake kits in the files? Is there anything about RSI kits at all?
I'd have to ask VMXEO. VM, I know you're in chat, or I could ask Piggles, but I can't. I know there's Drake and I know there's MISC are in the files. I would suspect there's RSI as well. I think all manufacturers will get this category of items, but it wouldn't shock me if RSI has them. And those could be things like staircases, doors, wall panel, A, B, C, D, whatever. I
just thought it'd be a good. You know how they talked about in the monthly report about essentially using the kits of the Drake ships to build out the Ironclad. I think, for people watching, that'll just be a good example of how they'd be doing it on this ship. Yeah. Essentially, it seems like a version of kit bashing, but it's a bit more advanced than that. They can lower out the 3D panels and then and retexture them and recolor them and stuff like that. It's almost like what they do with the elevators. That's a really good simple example.
I guess I would refer to it. In-game. I almost would refer to it as like kit connecting, where kit bashing, you're just throwing shit together and there's intersects and stuff, where this is more like Legos, where like you're taking kits and they plug into another piece and this plugs into another piece. So maybe that's even a better way of looking at it to some degree, but they are kits, and we know CIG's pushing this way. When that was pointed out to me in the game files, I was really excited to see that too, just because again, to me, it just shows, hey, internally at CIG, they're starting to organize things for more efficient ship production. You know,
exactly.
for a long time, for
100%
years,
agree.
we kept asking, why is the backlog so long? Why does it take so long? Why does it take so long?
Mm.
Well, I've seen an uptick, I think, in their efficiency, but it looks like they're also just sort of getting themselves pulled back together. They've rebuilt the team. They've got, and whenever you bring new team members in, those team members are going to have new ideas towards efficiencies to make things easier for them. So I think there's been a lot of thinking on that. I think this year is going to be, I mean, all you got to do is look at the ships that are in production, and they've got quite a list of ships that are moving through production. And then it'll be interesting to see what next year looks like and the year after that. If there's a steady increase in their efficiency and their output, I think that spells good things for CIG.
I think we're gonna have to do a content creator vote thing, and the winner gets something. I'll work it out.
Yeah.
All the people we can think of. When is the Flappy Bird coming out? And the person that gets the closest to it.
Well, yeah. So the Drake Flappy Bird, yeah. Yeah, and do I even have an image of that? I do. I always have my silhouettes ready. There we go. There's the Drake Flappy Bird. That's another one that's still supposed to be coming. You know what I mean? Yeah.
There's not many left on there now, is there?
There's not.
The most interesting ones were the last few that are left.
I have this image here where I kind of sort of talked about things. The Argo CSV FM, we know that's essentially done. We just need the functionality before they release it. MTC's released. That Anvil Ballista type vehicle, we know that's probably coming this year. It's a vehicle to know. We don't know what that one is, but I would assume it's mostly done.
It'll
the
come
Hornet's
with base
done.
Building.
Yeah,
it'll come with base building. It's obvious.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah. It could be. We still have that consolidated Outland ship that could possibly come. The Drake Flappy Bird. The Apollos we know are pretty far along. They passed gray box review, and I think we're heading towards Lot Zero. Starlancer TAC was released. Build is obviously still in development, I'm sure, waiting for base building. Perseus, Ironclad, Pioneer, all being worked on. But a lot of the stuff in that silhouette video, I would say it's really just the Flappy Bird, the consolidated Outland ship, and that Anvil ground vehicle are the ones that I guess are still question mark ships. Like, we don't know when they're coming and totally what their role is. Everything else has either been released or is a very much unknown quantity. You know what I mean?
Well, I think one you can say is a known quality is what I call the Sinu Frontier, which was named by Twispone. I really like that name. But I think that is, I'd be based on patterns, I'd be super surprised if we don't get that at CitizenCon.
Yeah.
Medium ships have all been coming out around CitizenCon the last couple of years. Think Spirit, God, what was the one that got Zeus? That type of thing. They've all been coming out there, and we do see a lot of patterns like that, where we always get a starter ship at AIE.
Yep.
I'd fully expect to see Intrepid variants, or if we're not getting Intrepid variants, a new starter.
Right. Right.
So yeah.
Yeah. Everyone, going to be wrapping it up, obviously. I've got to get back to work, but Execute, thanks for joining me and talking Perseus.
Real quick.
Yes.
Real quick before we go. The Flappy Bird.
Yes.
Could it be, so if the cutter is a Drake starter and the Cutlass is a medium, could technically the Flappy Bird be an advanced starter?
It could be.
Like the Avenger?
It could be.
I think Reliant and stuff like that.
Yeah, it definitely could be. I think sometimes the Cuddy is sort of thought of as an advanced starter.
It's technically a medium, though. I'm talking pad size here purely.
Yeah, okay.
There tends to be two starters, so that you get the smaller and the larger. So you got to think of things like the 100i, the 300i, the Aurora, and then that salvager that's coming, that'll probably be the bigger advanced starter.
Yeah.
There's a few there now that have two. Not all of them have two. Like, for example, Aegis doesn't have two.
Yeah.
Things like that. RSI doesn't have two.
That's true.
When that salvager comes, it'll probably be the big one.
Mm-hmm. I was thinking about Crusader.
Crusader's got technically the Intrepid's an advanced.
Yeah,
so
I guess so.
Underneath it.
Yeah, I was kind of bouncing in my head like what the Intrepid was, but yeah. I mean, the cool thing is with the Flappy Bird, the Senile ship, there's still some we still have some exciting like unknowns coming this year, because it sort of feels a little bit like with a lot of the variants. I know there's been a little bit of like fatigue with those. Obviously, you've talked about that. We do have the Meteor coming, which was a little bit of a question mark on its role. I think it's a general purpose ship, though.
That's not a terrible idea that Tyrion just said in chat. I actually, now he mentions it, it makes a lot of sense.
Resource extractor.
This is Tyrion. He says, I think it's a resource extractor. So if you're going to do the tech for the Pioneer, why wouldn't you put that into another ship? That's a really good idea, Tyrion.
Oh yeah, I think that's a great suggestion, and it would then really become the perfect support ship for the Pioneer, which is sort of probably what it should be.
No, not this one. The Flappy Bird.
Oh, the Flappy Bird.
The Flappy Bird. See how it lands and the way the I don't know, Tyrion, you speak for yourself, but the way you said it then, I thought he meant the Flappy Bird, because the way the Pioneer lands, if this thing lands, if it's our first like essentially underground miner, I could actually see that like essentially.
That's interesting.
You know what I mean?
You know why that's interesting, and that's actually a good to Durian, that is a great thought, because if you look at it, while the guy does have the gun down there, it doesn't look like a combat ship. Like its hull looks more industrial.
We've been through this. It can't be a combat ship because of how they fly. It's shit. It's just not until alien flight mechanics come in.
I tell you,
all those ships are at a massive disadvantage.
That bridge there looking so industrial, man, that really got me thinking. And the way this weird landing gear situation is down here, man, I wonder. That's got me thinking now.
Might have to throw that back in our group chat at Trispo and see what he comes up with.
Yeah. I'm actually going to be sending everybody over to our good buddy Trispone here. Just a second, he's about to go live.
Ask him for us.
Yeah.
Ask him for us. Harass him.
Yes. Ask him, harass him. Everybody, I hope you're well. I was going to redirect off of YouTube to his channel, but for some reason, I got a setting wrong on my channel that I guess I can't do redirect, so I got to figure that out. But anyways,
I'll show you if you want.
Yeah.
Can you watch my screen, or is that not probably not possible?
Probably not possible in my current setup. But for next time, I will. But for now, I will post the link.
You can do. So if you open it in YouTube, you can actually do it live.
Yeah, it's in
when it's live,
like in YouTube Studio.
Yeah, and then you go into the actual live episode, and it's got all the stats up. You can then go into one of the little menus there, and you have to scroll down to the bottom. That's the pain in the butt, but it is there.
Gotcha. Let me see here. Stand by, everybody. I'm going to get a couple things ready here.
Can you share a screen with me? That might be the easiest way to do it, and then I can tell you where to go.
Yeah, maybe. Stand by. I got so much like.
We're doing it live, guys. If you don't know the
we're
term,
doing it live.
We're
doing it live. Hold on a minute. The problem is I got too many windows. I went down a monitor for a period of time because I'm getting one of my monitors replaced. Stand by. Let me share my screen.
Stand by me.
Okay, there we go. Can you see?
Yeah, it's loading.
Okay.
Right, so click into that. Just like
the three dots.
Click into it. No, just the title.
Okay. Yep.
Right, and then click. Click the link. Click the link that says video link.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, this is not the right place. Okay.
Right,
that's not it either.
Click into that.
Oops.
What the hell? How did you get to this?
I don't know. I'm in YouTube Studio.
You need the thing where it's actually showing you the stats and stuff.
Yeah, the actual. You know what I think that is? You're talking about the control room. This here.
That's what I'm talking about. Yes. Yeah. Now see where it says edit over there, or is it under one of those stream health shopping analytics one? And then you scroll. No, I think it might be the edit. Sorry.
Okay.
It's one, and then you scroll down one of them, and you scroll down.
Mm-hmm.
Scroll down.
Stand by, everybody.
Scroll down. Right to the bottom, and it should say no. Okay, it's one of the other two.
Redirect.
Redirect.
Okay,
there
redirect.
It is.
There it is.
I did know what I was talking about. I just don't know what they're called.
Okay, there we go, everyone.
Sorry.
Okay, so I'm going to be sending you to. I don't have.
He hasn't added you as a. He hasn't given you friends. Yeah, you've got to be friends.
Trispone has not added me. Can you believe that, everyone? Terrible.
This is what I was talking about. Me being able to redirect to you. You've got to do the same thing.
I know.
If you don't. Yeah, you got to give permission.
All
It's
right.
really weird.
I'll let them know. But everyone, here's what we're going to do.
Yeah.
Here's what we're going to do. I'm going to send you all over. So first, do not forget to get in on the Perseus giveaway. It's going to be pretty cool. I'm looking for everyone's playing Dune nowadays, so I can't. I'm trying to raid. You know what? I'm going to send you all to. God, how many people?
This is a really bad. If anyone you want to pun for June, right?
Yeah.
When they say I don't like June, it's a bit dry.
Yeah. I'm interested in it, but it looks. I don't know if I have the time right now to play it.
It's a very hardcore survival game.
Yeah.
I'm going to be honest. I was turned off as soon as I found out who was making it.
Okay.
Funcom have not made a lot of good stuff.
Gotcha.
In the past.
Okay.
This might be their, swan song or whatever you want to call it, but there are other stuff. Yeah. Maybe.
Well,
look
on that note, everyone, I'm going to send you on Twitch. I'm going to send you over to Henkin, our good buddy Henkin. He is playing Dune. So give him some Starjump love. Good dude. Met him at Equinox. Totally awesome. If you're over on YouTube, make sure you head over to Trispone's channel. I just posted the link in chat. Go over there. Watch his video. He's going to be doing cool stuff. So go check that out. Make sure you get in on the Perseus giveaway. For everyone, thanks for hanging out with me today. Kind of a quicker stream, but wanted to talk about the Perseus. It's obviously an exciting ship and hopefully coming out into this year. I think that would get everyone in the game very excited because it's a popular ship. Execute. Thank you very much, buddy. Appreciate you. And we'll talk to everyone later. All right, here we go.
See you, everyone.
See you.
Bye.